Welcome back everybody to the Braeden YouTube channel. Today is episode 2 of the K24A2 build, so let's dive right in. So today we're going to be going over some engine side cooling system components, and this pile of parts right here is not very big, but there's a lot to speak to, especially on this part right here. I'm definitely experimenting with this. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but we'll go over that in a minute. So this pile of parts consists of an EGR passage, and the 2 pipes that I took out of it that are actually trashed. This is an M20 by 1mm sealing bolt and its corresponding washer. We've got a 3/8 British standard pipe thread, low pressure aluminum fitting. A K-tuned heater return block off plug. And a Low Dollar Motorsports 0 to 50 psi pressure transmitter sensor. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start putting this stuff on the engine. We're going to start with this EGR passage here, and we'll go over it in detail, what all I did and what all I plan to do with it as we go. As you can see, these 2 parts are very different. This one has this EGR built into it, and there's a reasoning that I wanted to use that one specifically. If we look at the back side of these 2, they're actually almost identical, if not completely identical. So these 2 sections here are not used on both of them. This is your heater send to your heater core, same for both. This is your radiator send, your coolant outlet, and then this is your EGR feed to the actual EGR plate. Now, the reason I went with this one specifically is because on this plate I could drill a hole right here to put in another one of these pressure transducers to measure exhaust pressure. It's because that'll help you size your turbo properly, and I can figure out what turbo is working best for this engine. Now this port right here is fed into the number 4 exhaust port, and this is where I'm kind of starting to think this may not work, because there's a hole drilled straight through the head into the closest runner in this port. Now the problem with that is there might be an actual vacuum right there, or the pressure spikes might be so violent that I get a terrible reading. So this idea may not work, and in which case I will just switch back to the TSX water outlet. But what I did on this one here is I also have a spot for coolant pressure to measure whether or not the head gasket is failing me. Because again, I'm going to push this engine right to the explosion point. So what we'll be able to do with this one is have exhaust gas pressure and coolant pressure, and then on top of all of that I actually pulled out the throttle body water feed right here, tapped it to a 1/8 NPT, and then I actually pulled out the heater send as well to the heater core and tapped it to an M1 by 20, which is where this bolt will come in. So what we're going to do now is throw this thing on the engine, put this bolt in and torque it down, and then put in the coolant pressure sensor, and we'll revisit. Alright, so that was pretty simple actually. I mean, 4 bolts, pull that thing off, the gasket's the same between both engines, and now all I have to do is buy another one of these sensors, a 0 to 100 psi, and I can pull out that and put another sensor right there when I get it. They're not that expensive, I think they're like 60 bucks, so I can buy a new one and put it in there and measure exhaust gas pressure from this port. Again, I'm not sure if it'll work. I think it might be a little violent in that port because you're really kind of supposed to measure it at the collector, which will be somewhere in this area. And if that's the case, then no big deal. I switch it back and, you know, drill the hole for the sensor in the other water passage over there. So then I got the bolt and the sealing washer put in to delete the heater core, and I got the coolant pressure sensor in on the front, and that'll look really nice right there. This is the orientation the engine will be in the car, so that sensor is nice and level, comes out nicely. I mean, it looks pretty good. I like the way these look. They got a nice look to them, and you know, they aren't big and bulky. They're really nice, really like them. So the next thing to do, since we deleted the heater send, we need to delete the heater return, which if you have a K24, there's a pipe that comes like right down through here, runs along, bolts here, and goes to here. Well, you can't have this open if there's no heater core to send to. The other thing is, a lot of people, that pipe comes back here, they loop these together And that's, I mean, it's okay, but the problem is there's water flowing through it bypassing the radiator. So you need to block those off so that all your water comes out here and goes to the radiator. So that's where this K-tuned water plug comes in. Basically what you do is you take this, lubricate that O-ring a little bit, and you pound it down into that hole there, and then you take out this bolt right here, put it through this bracket, and then this bracket sits on top and holds that thing in there. So what we're gonna do now is install it. That install is literally just that simple. And you take out one bolt and take out that pipe and put that on there and you're done. And then just the geometry of this bracket will keep this from being able, it won't be able to rotate around. So it will definitely keep that thing in there under high pressure. When you're deleting this pipe, just know that you cannot delete this one unless you delete the thermostat. This is the bypass that comes from this hole right here and sends coolant past. It's basically like kind of like a sensor, basically, where your water pump pumps water through the engine, it gets hot, and some of it comes out through this hole, and it'll go down past the thermostat and basically give the thermostat a sensor of what the water temp is, so it knows when to open. So if you have a thermostat and you delete this pipe as well, your thermostat won't open. So make sure that you keep that unless you delete the thermostat, in which case you can, you know, block this off however you want. But I am keeping a thermostat on the street engine, so keep this pipe, don't delete that. So now that the EGR passage is on with the bolt, the plugs, and the sensor, and then we've got the return plug in here, we've explained this pipe as well. The only thing left is this 3/8 BSPT plug. Now where does this go? It goes in the intake manifold, and we're going to cover the install of this in the next video. But before I do that, I want to finish off the cooling side of things because there's actually coolant in here. Now this plug goes where the air assist valve goes, and obviously I already cracked this loose. This thing has basically a little valve in it that allows air to come from your air cleaner through the top, and it controls it into this nipple right here that I already put a cover on, and then it comes through this hole into this cavity in the head, and then it travels up to this point, this point, this point, and this point. What that does is during cold startup, it goes through these holes, and then it turns and heads down and runs right past the nozzle of the injector to help kind of atomize air when the engine's cold, and it helps with cold warm up. Now, we don't need that. The air assist valve kind of is a pain, they break, but the problem is you have to cap this off, which I'll probably end up doing like a 1/4 NPT plug here eventually. But for right now, I'm just going to put a clamp on this, and then this 3/8 plug goes right in here. And now this is a BSPT. NPT will not fit as well, and I'll show you why. This is just a 3/8 NPT fitting that I found in the air compressor tools drawer. Now if you watch, that thing binds up less than a turn in there, like 3/4 of a turn it binds. So this is a BSPT as well. Honda really likes their British Standard pipe thread. So this little plug right here actually goes much further, and I'm not going to turn it because I can't get it out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put Teflon tape on this and send that down in there, and then that will conclude this video, and we will go into the intake manifold and all of its related components in the next one. Alright, so the 3/8 plug is in there. It's nice and flush. It went in about 4.5 turns. That'll be just plenty. This is just a clamp off an old pneumatic line that I pulled off this engine earlier, and that will seal off the engine vacuum from being able to get out or boost from leaking. We've got our K-tuned heater return plug in. We've got our Low Dollar Motorsports 0 to 50 PSI pressure transducer. We plugged off the throttle body water feed here, and then we plugged the heater core return here, and we have this temporarily plugged, but eventually this will probably get a sensor just like that, and we'll see how the exhaust gas reading is right there. Again, for the 3rd time, there's a good chance that spot will not work, and if that's the case, then we'll put the old water passage back on this engine. But for now, that is it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. And the next one, we put on the intake manifold and its related components, a map sensor, the fuel injectors, fuel rail, and some pretty good stuff there. So we'll see you next time.